So in this segment, I want to actually really drill down on the noise reduction of noisy images, high ISO. With the advent of these hyper ISO cameras, it's really been pretty interesting how raw processing has improved in the noise reduction. Camera Raw 6.1 and Lightroom 3.1 added new noise reduction that was really done by Eric Chan, under the auspices of Thomas Knoll, and has done an amazing job of really kind of adding industrial strength noise reduction for high ISO images. So this is an image that I shot in an Adobe building down in Santa Fe, and as you can see, very bright outside. All right, I underexposed, and it's shot with my typically noisy 10D camera, so I keep it around for doing noise demos. Unlike sharpening, where you want to actually work up to the sharpening to get optimal at 1:1, here it's actually easier to work at 2:1 or 3:1 to see what is being done to the noise. So I'm going to do this at 3:1, and you can see at this point I've got no noise reduction in the luminance and no noise reduction in the color. I turned it down.
Right.
So you can see a lot of stuff going on. There is color noise going on in here, and that is really largely attributable to increasing the amplification of the shadow noise and what ends up happening in the demosaicing. It's introducing color errors or enhancing the color errors. So the default color noise reduction is 25. And you can see,
Had a bit of an effect, yeah.
Yeah. Well, got rid of a lot of the color noise. So color noise is separate and distinct from the luminance noise. And you'll notice here the noise reduction is off. And if I come in here and start adding noise reduction, you can see that the surfaces start smoothing down.
Right.
If I go all the way to 100, it looks a little bit like a watercolor painting. So the key is to arrive at an area that is hitting the noise suitably without losing image detail. So it's a real toss-up. It's opposite sides of the coin where you want to smooth the noise but preserve the actual detail of the image.
And again, we're at 300% here.
Yes.
And once you go to 1:1, and certainly in smaller sizes, not on a print, the noise is going to be much less visible.
Much, much less visible. And if I were going to the web or, like an iPad or an iPhone, the downsampling, the best noise reduction is downsampling. Literally, if you downsample in half, you cut the noise in half. That's part of the bicubic interpolation. So I'm going to actually increase the noise reduction quite a bit here. I'm 55. It's a little bit on the soft side. So the detail slider here, as long as you're in process 2010, the detail slider literally lets you kind of determine visually where that cutoff is between edge detail of real image and noise. So if I run it all the way down, it basically tends to obliterate the image detail. And if I run it up, it has the effect of kind of reducing the amount of noise reduction. So,
but bringing back more detail.
Bringing back the detail, but also increasing the noise. So the key is to get basically the optimal position between 0 and 100. The default is 50. And I tend to increase the luminance noise reduction and increase the detail just to bring that back a little bit. The contrast, this really comes in handy with really higher ISO images. But what that allows you to do is actually kind of return some of the contrast. Yeah, it's hard to even see in this particular image, but it allows you to return some of the contrast that the noise reduction kind of eliminates. So then what I wanted to do also is increase the sharpening, decrease the radius a little bit.
This is very much an iterative process.
Yes.
And I think what we need to tell people is experiment, see what the various controls do, and start to trust your eyes. Because that is the ultimate arbiter of what works and what doesn't, is what you see.
Yeah. So one of the little secrets, once I've done the sharpening and the noise reduction, I like to add some grain. Particularly when you're dealing with high ISO images, what ends up happening is that the noise reduction can kind of appear a bit synthetic. Okay.
Yep.
Now, again, this is science fiction. We're looking at things 3 times, 4 times, 5 times bigger than what's going to appear in print.
Right.
But if you add a little bit of, I'm going to add a lot of grain so we can see what the grain addition is. What I like to do then is make the grain very small, increase the roughness to make it look a little bit more like film grain, a little more uneven, less kind of mechanical. And then reduce it down. Here's no grain. And reduce it down just enough so that here is at 7. You can just start to see a little bit of texture coming back in, right?
It kind of reminds me of the high accutance look that some developers had on black and white film, where it made the image grainier,
Yes.
but the grain had sharper edges,
Yes.
and therefore the image looked sharper.
Yes. So, you know, arguably if we look at this in the totality, adding the sharpening, adding the noise reduction, and then after the fact adding just a touch of grain, then it becomes a lot more photographic, I think. So then let's look at it at 1:1. So compared to where it started, this is actually not too terribly bad.
No?
And if you actually go into experiment with this on hyper ISO, I don't know, you've got a Nikon D3X.
Nah, but you know, I've got some files.
120,000
Yeah, 120,000. I never shoot, even on the lowest noise cameras, I never do anything above 12,000. And really, 6,400 is usually the limit. But nevertheless, it's amazing that we can you know, get anything out of these cameras at those speeds.
So kind of combination of sharpening, noise reduction, and grain effect.
That's
Pretty
great.
useful.
Yeah, very useful. That's great. Again, I learned a few things.
Cool.